Well, it is great to be back. Happy 2025 from all of us at KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM, and we are so grateful to be kicking off the new year with you. Yes, it's Pete Mundo. Thank you to all of our great fill-in hosts over the last week and a half or so who held down the fort. We had Paul Gallant in Houston. You had John Whitmer in Wichita. Thank you to Jonathan Weir and Patrick Toohey being right here in Kansas City, helping us for the last couple of days. So well done. Thanks to our buddy Gardner for helping out Mark, who had a little time off.
Yes, thanks to Gardner.
Shout out.
Put his name out there.
Shout out to Gardner as well. And a shout out to John Anthony for holding down the fort. I'll tell you, these fill-in hosts, they text me when they're done, and they're like, John's great. We love John. John's nicer to you guys than he is to me some days. What's that all about? Come on, you got to be kidding me. So with that, we appreciate those guys helping us during some downtime, and we are refreshed, we are recharged, and we are ready to rock. 2024 was great for KCMO, and I'm expecting 2025 to be even better, and that's because of you. That's you sharing the show, telling friends, family about the show, sharing the podcast, sharing the live stream, whatever it might be. That's you guys doing all those little things that genuinely do make a difference. I know you probably think they don't, but you all tell one person, think about that. You double the audience. And that's what we seemingly continue to do here on KCMO Talk Radio. So all eyes are on New Orleans, right? You have this tragedy that takes place in New Orleans, early morning hours of New Year's Day. And now the question is who, why, and motivation. Well, we're still waiting for some answers on this, but some new developments this morning come courtesy here of multiple media outlets. The brother of the terrorist who launched the deadly attack on Bourbon Street in New Orleans says that radicalization is to blame for his brother's rampage. Abdur Jabbar, 24, of Beaumont, Texas, told the New York Times that his brother, Shamsud Din Jabbar, who killed now at least 15 people in the New Year's Day attack, converted to Islam at an early age. The younger brother, Jabbar, told the newspaper that what his brother did does not represent Islam. This is more some type of radicalization, not a religion. Abdur described his brother, who was killed by police, of course, after mowing down innocent revelers, a sweetheart, really a nice guy, a friend, really smart and caring, per the New York Times. In a video posted to his Facebook page prior to the attack, Shamsud Din Jabbar pledged allegiance to ISIS, the outlet reported, citing law enforcement officials. But amazingly, we sat here yesterday and we did not know nearly as much as we should have known. In fact, we were told early on that this was not a terrorist attack. If we could play that cut from FBI Assistant Aletha Duncan there, Mark, I want to play that cut where she said at about 7 a.m. yesterday, hours after the attack, yeah, we're really not sure that this is a terrorist event.
This is not a terrorist event. What it is right now is their improvised explosive devices that was found, and we are working on confirming if this is a viable device or not. As Chief Kirkpatrick said, we're asking everyone to stay away from Bourbon Street, specifically from Canal Street to St. Anne. That is my ask. Once again, stay away from Bourbon Street, Canal Street, all the way to St. Anne.
How could you, I mean, even before we knew who this guy was, right? Even before we knew anything about him, this is the very definition of terrorism. Terrorism in its broadest sense is what? It's basically using violence against innocent people to achieve political or ideological aims. This was not some type of drunken accident. We knew that very quickly after it happened. And now you sit there and you say to yourself, I'm listening to an FBI assistant tell me it's not terrorism. You are striking fear into people, innocent people, who are enjoying a night out on the streets, New Year's Eve of all nights, in New Orleans. Everything about this was terrorism. Out of the gates, it was terrorism. The minute you knew that it was not just some drunk person, and clearly it wasn't because the person got into a gunfight with the police, this was terrorism. And that's your person you're putting in front of the microphone at the FBI in a moment like this? That's an embarrassment. That's an embarrassment to the agency is what that is. Now, a guy who's not an embarrassment by any stretch of the imagination is Louisiana Senator John Kennedy. And John Kennedy was down there just off of Bourbon Street last night, and he talked to Fox News, and he made it very clear. He does not want to hear from these officials on how they won't have the resources and they can't be totally transparent. They need more money. No one's having any of that right now.
There's a fine line between anger and grief, and I'm pretty much straddling that line right now. If you don't believe in objective evil, all you need to do is go walk about 30 or 40 yards that way. I'm here for two reasons. Number one, these are my people, and these are my people's guests. Number two, I don't want to hear from anybody in the federal government that they don't have the resources. Now, the White House, the FBI, Justice, Homeland Security are in charge now. We're cooperating with them. I want to give them a reasonable period of time. There's a lot of information out there. Some of it is actually true. I want to give them a reasonable period of time, but they need to saddle up and ride. We need to find out what happened here, and it's not going to be covered up. We're going to tell the American people exactly what happened.
Saddle up and ride, says John Kennedy. I like that. Those three-letter agencies need to do it, and they better continue to do it, and it better be happening today, tomorrow, and every day until we get some more answers. Okay? I mean, I understand that this person probably wasn't at the Capitol on January 6th, so they might not be all that interested in him, but I'm sorry, you've got serious consequences here because the country feels in large part like it is under attack. And it may be from within, but that's what it feels like. And, you know, you've got the situation now in Las Vegas. We've identified the driver of the Tesla Cybertruck that exploded outside of the Trump Las Vegas hotel. That person has been ID'd as Army veteran Matthew Livelsberger, 37-year-old guy who rented the truck that went up in flames yesterday in the valet area of the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. And right now, we don't know as much about what happened over there. We do know the driver of that Tesla was killed in the blast and at least 7 bystanders suffered minor injuries. But, you know, there are some weird coincidences between these two stories. There's nothing that ties them directly together. But, once again, this may just be coincidence. The vehicles in both the New Orleans attack and the Trump Las Vegas hotel Tesla explosion were rented using the app Turo, T-U-R-O, officials have said. Now, the FBI is probing a possible connection between the two men, according to KTNV out in Vegas. And as of late last night, a man who identified himself as Livelsberger's father declined to comment when reached by the New York Post late last night. So you do have this individual who's an Army veteran, just like the guy, of course, in New Orleans, who we know at this point had been radicalized to a large extent. But we don't know if these two guys knew each other, if there is any connection between them broader than this. But obviously, it's a developing story that we will continue to update throughout the morning here on KCMO.
I understand some of our listeners might think this is inevitable. We've talked about the border and the crisis. Now, this isn't about people that have crossed the border as far as we know at this point. However, federal authorities should have been on heightened alert. We have the issue raised, even in a different area. There's no excuse for, well, we just didn't see this one.
Who would have saw this coming at some point?
You can't say that.
No excuses. They've got all the resources they need, as John Kennedy said, and they have got to get down the business right now. That's what they've got to do. 913-408-7957. Pete Mundo back with you on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM. As always, pick us up on the stream this morning on the KCMO Talk Radio app, your Alexa, or your Google Home. Now, how is the media covering this, both of these stories? Well, it's not going to shock you that they kicked off 2025 by completely embarrassing themselves We'll give you examples of that coming up on KCMO Talk Radio. Oh, the media. They are kicking off 2025 the same way they ended 2024, trying to destroy whatever credibility they have left. Good morning. It is 6:20. It is great to be back on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. So, look at some of these headlines that were posted on some of your favorite, and I say that tongue-in-cheek, media outlets over the last 24 hours or so. I'm going to start in New Orleans, not in New Orleans, but this is from ESPN. Of course, this impacted the bowl game there, the Sugar Bowl, one of the college football playoff quarterfinal games between Georgia and Notre Dame was pushed back from last night to today. So this is a sports story as much as a news story. So ESPN covers it and runs this headline. Superdome gets security sweep after truck attack in New Orleans kills 10. Yeah, I hate when trucks kill people. You've got to be kidding me. Yeah, those old trucks just like the guns. They just go off and people get killed and trucks just start driving into people and you can't do anything about it. It's amazing how these inanimate objects have such power over us without a human being able to do anything about it. That's from ESPN. Nice job, folks. Well done, everybody. Then you've got this. This is from, there's a lot of options here. Let's start with the Associated Press. This is in Las Vegas, where, of course, that Tesla truck exploded, and we now know the person behind it, or at least who is believed to be the person behind it. And here's how the Associated Press ran the headline. One person dies when Tesla truck catches fire and explodes outside of Trump's Las Vegas hotel. Now, you hear that headline and you think, wait, what happened to the Tesla truck? Wait, did the Tesla truck explode? What are we doing here? What's happening? What's going on with Tesla? They've got to fix these cars.
Well, you would think of the battery. I would think the battery.
That's what I would think, reading that headline. One person dies when Tesla truck catches fire and explodes outside of Trump's Las Vegas hotel. That is a factually incorrect framing, as the truck did not catch fire. An explosion of gasoline and fireworks in the bed of the truck killed the only perpetrator of the failed attack. Okay, that's what happened. Those are the facts. But this is how you can write headlines, and you can trick people, and you can change the narrative. And that's why Associated Press, as Elon Musk put on X last night, stands for Associated Propaganda. Some of the other headlines. Let's see what MSN is doing. MSN writes, Tesla Cybertruck catches fire outside Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. You wouldn't think anything of it, right? Oh, boy, that's too bad. Truck caught fire. Gosh, I hope they get that all figured out. Glad I don't have one of those. What do we have here? New York Times. One dead after a Cybertruck explodes outside the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. Wow, that doesn't sound good. The truck just exploded. Wouldn't want to have one of those exploding trucks on my hands, especially at the cost of $100,000 for one of these trucks?
The headline I saw made it think it was like a battery explosion. Then I saw the video and there's fireworks going off. It's a huge explosion.
Yeah, because it was an attempt at an attack. That's what they're trying to hide in these headlines, right? Another one here. Tesla Cybertruck reportedly catches fire outside Trump Hotel in Las Vegas.
Reportedly.
Yeah, that was one as well. The Guardian writes, one dead after Tesla Cybertruck explodes outside Trump Hotel in Las Vegas.
At least they had the fact up front.
Yeah, at least they did have the explosion part up front. You're right.
Serious.
Yeah.
Right, immediately, you know it's serious.
Yep, no doubt about it. Now, Elon putting up last night on X, we now have confirmed that the explosion was caused by very large fireworks and or a bomb carried in the bed of the rented Cybertruck and is unrelated to the vehicle itself. So, and this is what we knew out of the gates, right? I mean, fireworks don't just go off in the back of cars like willy-nilly. Nothing causes a fireworks explosion in the back of a vehicle. But you look at this story and the way it was covered, and you look at the way, the likes of ESPN covered what happened in New Orleans. truck attack in New Orleans kills 10. You have got to be kidding me. You would think that if there's one thing that these media outlets would learn after what happened over the last few months in this country, it's that they need to do some serious soul searching. They need to look in the mirror and realize that people do not trust them anymore. And that in large part, they've done this to themselves. Nobody did this to them. They can't cry wolf. They can't say, woe is me, life's unfair. No, I mean, they're dealing with the same challenges we're all dealing with in so-called traditional media. I use my air quotes when I say it. We're doing great here on KCMO. Why do you think that might be? When you hear all the crying from cable news outlets, when you hear all the crying from newspapers, oh, no one wants us anymore. No one trusts us. Listen, if people bought into what you were saying, if they felt they could trust you, people will pay for a good product. That's never changed in this country. If you deliver a good product, people will pay for it or they will consume it. The great thing about us here at KCMO is that it's always free. We just ask you to support our great sponsors who pay to be on this show and be a part of the show. That's the only thing we ask from you. But when you hear people complaining about, well, we're the mainstream media and people don't trust us, and now you've got X and you've got other social media platforms that are beating us at our own game. You've got outlets like the Daily Wire, Ben Shapiro's company, and things like that. It's like maybe you need to look in the mirror and wonder why this is happening. And talking about how truck attacks are killing people in New Orleans, and talking about how, boy, these cyber trucks are just exploding outside of Trump hotels, insinuating that no one knows what happened or there was some type of car failure, is why people have turned their shoulder on you and why they've decided to go elsewhere for their media consumption. 627, it is great to be back on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio. Thank you to all the fill-in hosts who helped over the last week and a half. We're grateful that you're back with us. Mayor Lucas will be here in his 7:30 Thursday slot on KCMO. And as we get set to start a new year, something stood out to me that I want to share with you next. Well, Happy New Year. It's January 2nd. It's great to be back on KCMO 95.7 FM after a little time off. Thank you to all the fill-in hosts who helped hold down the fort. And I'll tell you what, these fill-in hosts, they love John. They all text me after the show. They're like, oh, John's great. He's the best. He's the man. I'm like, John treats you guys better than he does me. What's that all about? They love John Anthony. They're huge fans. And Garner helping out as well. So well done there by you, John.
Thank you, sir.
Well done. Now, as I start a new year and we start a new set of shows, I saw this headline in the Babylon Bee, which is satirical, but I do think it applies to where we're at today. The headline read, wow, what a terrible year, says people living at the absolute peak of human civilization. And, listen, there's a lot of people as we turn the page to 2025 who are not going to be looking forward to what's to come. Now, as far as I'm concerned, we're going to get some competency back when it comes to leadership in this country. And that's not going to make your life great. Trust me, much more of your life will be decided by you and your decisions, not some politician who's in Congress or somebody in the White House. The bulk of your success in life will not be determined by our political leaders. That being said, I certainly believe that we are trending in the right direction come January 20th at noon Eastern time. 18 days, 4 hours, and 24 minutes, but who's counting? I know I'm not. But it is amazing that, as we put a bow on the year and we look forward to a new year, there are people who, regardless of how the politics go in your life, they'll say, wow, boy, what an awful year. Oh, we got to suffer through 4 more years of Orange Man bad. We are living at the absolute peak of human civilization. That is indisputable. I pick up this phone in my hand and I can pull up whatever the heck I want. I can get information on whatever it is I need in the span of seconds, right? And think about what you did. Hopefully you got a little downtime over the holiday break and how easy life can be with a couple of clicks, with a couple of, searches with your thumbs. It's amazing. You tell people 50 years ago, 100 years ago, I mean, many of you obviously alive at that point, how easy it is to gather information, to get things to show up at your front door. You did your Christmas shopping, your Hanukkah shopping. You didn't have to leave the house. There was no going to the mall and having to deal with crazy people and fighting over parking spots. I mean, it's never been easier. But you will hear people say, oh, boy, it's never been tougher. Now, no matter how the politics go in this country, I'll never say that because it's a ridiculous assertion to make. But it also is something that I've been thinking about over the last couple of weeks because, we're getting to the new year and a lot of people in my life are either having kids, thinking about having kids. Of course, we've got 3. And what you hear from some people, and Mark, since you're of a similar age to myself, you can probably, hopefully confirm this. We have not talked about this before this conversation right now. But you probably hear, I believe, from a lot of people who say, oh, I could never bring kids into this world. Tell me you've heard that before from people who might be younger than you, but they're peers of ours. Do you hear that?
I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have heard that as well. This notion of, even if, and whether they're married or not, some of them are married, but it's the age-old adage of, how could you possibly bring kids into this crazy place? World's a mess. Country's going to hell in a handbasket. Well, don't you want good people to try to turn things around? Don't you want to produce halfway decent human beings that can help be the change that you want to see? If you think you're a decent person, and no one thinks that they are not a decent person, right? Even awful people think that they're decent. Then you should want to be the change that you wish to see in the world by reproducing. But it's amazing how you hear this from so many young people. And I've heard it time and time again. I've heard it from older people. Like, holiday parties, things like that. You start talking to people about things that you wouldn't talk about at the office, not in a weird way. You just say, hey, how are the kids doing? Got grown kids, what's going on? My kids don't want to have kids. They say we live in an awful time of human civilization, even though we live at the absolute peak of human civilization right now. Yeah, we've got problems. I'm not here to say that we don't. We'll talk about plenty of problems this morning. We started off the show talking about these tragedies. The one in New Orleans, obviously. You've got this potential also terrorist attack yesterday in Las Vegas outside of the Trump Hotel. Not totally sure on the motives there, but yes, there are terrible things happening, sadly, every day in this world. But we also are living at the peak of human civilization, and that cannot be understated, John. But for some people, they don't realize it, apparently.
Well, they act like there was some utopia, but I mean, hey, King's taxing us on this tea with no representation. So since day one, there have been issues. Life is a series of problem solving.
That's exactly right. It is. Now, we missed, as John and I were just joking about during the break, we haven't seen each other in nearly 2 weeks.
Yeah, this crazy break with the Wednesday being the holiday is weird.
Yes.
It's been weird.
It's been a weird kind of stretch
this is
here.
Our second Monday, Thursday.
It is.
And we got a Tuesday, Friday coming again.
You're right. Now, we sit here, and John and I joke to each other, we haven't seen each other, so we've missed like 7 news cycles in the span of less than 2 weeks, it feels like. Hey, whatever happened to those drones?
Yeah, drones? What drones?
Yeah, exactly right.
So many things have happened since then.
I mean, we walked out of here, or I walked out of here on Friday, December 21st, or 20th, excuse me. And that night I went to the Justin Timberlake concert. That was a birthday gift for Kate, which was we had a great time. I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. And it was probably, I thought it'd be 75-25 women to men. It was probably close to 50-50.
Date night.
Yeah, exactly. But he put on a damn good show. But that was also the day that Governor Mike Parson commuted the sentence of former KCPD detective Eric DeValconaire. And I'm not going to start off the new year just patting myself on the back. I'm not going to do that. But I just want to reiterate the fact that we told you on this show in early December that I believed he was going to be home for Christmas, DeValconaire. And we had the governor on the show about a week and a half prior to that. And I admit I wasn't feeling great about the odds. He was very coy about the whole thing. He didn't tip his hand at all.
Boy, sure didn't.
He didn't at all. And I was like, okay, is he really going to do this? My sources told me he'd be home by Christmas, but I looked the man in the eye, and I wasn't convinced that DeValcanair was going to be home by Christmas. And he was home by Christmas. And he deserved to be home by Christmas. And, you know, we talk about Friday news dumps all the time. There is no news dump like the Friday before Christmas. And that is what Governor Parson elected to do. And Eric DeValcanair, if you haven't seen on his wife Sarah's social media, has been thankfully a free man enjoying life. And Mark saw him at the Chiefs-Texans game. Now, you didn't talk to him, though, because you weren't sure it was Eric.
Yeah, I didn't want to be
well,
weird.
Of course. Hey, no, I'm just a random guy. Leave me alone.
Hey, man, what's up?
Well,
Yeah.
Part two, as you're heading to the restroom, also, it's the other taboo. Other degree of difficulty there.
Well, Mark texted me that day during the game on that Saturday against the Texans. He's like, hey, I think I'm here with, or not here with DeValcanair, but you did send me a text saying that you thought that he was at the game, but you weren't totally sure it was him, right? That's what happened.
Yeah, I was in line at the restroom, halftime, and this guy walks by, bumps into a little kid on accident. Says, oh, sorry, little buddy. And I look up, and I was like, hey, I think I know that guy. I've never met him before. I just seen his picture on news websites.
Yes. And, Mark sent me a text. He goes, I haven't met the guy. Obviously, none of us have. But do you know if Eric DeValcanair is at the Chiefs game today? I was like, I have no idea. And then Mark said, I walked by him. Looked like you walked by him on the way to the bathroom is what happened.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So then I saw on social media that he was there. So, good job there, Mark. Always on the job. Well done, my man.
I didn't post on social media.
No,
about anything. I'm not
no.
going to do any of that.
No, nor should you have.
Real quick, inside radio, too, then part 3 of this would be then I go to Branson and I text Pete, hey, I'll be out of town for the weekend, just Saturday and Sunday afternoon, just let you know in case anything happens on the news, which it never does, 52 weeks a year.
Yeah.
But no, Sunday we get the news about President Carter.
Yeah, Jimmy Carter dies, and I'm up here at the station on Sunday. I brought my 2 oldest girls with me, so we hung around for about an hour and a half reporting on Jimmy Carter's death. And amazingly, they stayed quiet when I had to go on mic. So It was pretty amazing. And the place did not burn down. So never a dull moment. The news is always happening. It's moving a mile a minute, even when, you least expect it, right? Even if it's the Sunday after Christmas, before New Year's, Jimmy Carter decides he's going to croak at 100.
From the restroom at Arrowhead to Branson to Pete's living room. We've got you covered.
Oh, man. On a serious note, I do hope that we can have Eric DeValcanair on this show at some point and welcome him back to civilized society and wish him well on whatever is next for him. But we'll work on that, obviously, letting the family enjoy the holidays as we did and hopefully you did as well. Coming up, we are going to kick off a new segment, and I want to get your feedback on it. We'll do it next on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. 7:05, it is great to be back after a week and a half off on KCMO 95.7 FM. We are grateful you're streaming us on the KCMO Talk Radio app, on the iHeart app, and thank you to all the great fill-in hosts who helped out over the last week and a half, whether it was Paul Gallant in Houston, John Whitmer in Wichita. We had Jonathan Weir and Patrick Toohey here in Kansas City this week. So nice job by everybody, and we are refreshed, recharged for 2025. Now, yesterday, one of the big stories, of course, is what happened in the wake of this clear terrorist attack in New Orleans. You had the Sugar Bowl, which was set to be played last night, the third of 3 college football playoff games that were supposed to be played get postponed. Got postponed to today. It's going to kick off at, 3 o'clock Central Time between Notre Dame and Georgia. The winner of that game will take on Penn State next week in the college football playoff semifinals. So that game's happening today. And this happens after 15 people get killed on Bourbon Street early morning hours of New Year's Day in a clear terrorist attack, despite the fact that the FBI jumped out of the gates and said, no terrorism here. It was the definition of terrorism, and now we know that it is. But postponing the Sugar Bowl one day was the wrong move. And frankly, it was a sign of weakness and a sign of softness by leaders in New Orleans and Louisiana. This gives terrorists exactly what they want. They get to impact everyday Americans' lives. They get to try to force people to live in fear. They get to change people's schedules. Postponing the Sugar Bowl one day, not even 24 hours, will not do anything to bring back any of those who lost their lives or make the game any safer. It was a sign of weakness, and it was a sign of softness. And the reason I know that is because last night you saw the governor of Louisiana, Jeff Landry, out at a steakhouse in New Orleans. If this was about safety, well, Jeff Landry is not going to a steakhouse last night to, I don't even know what, enjoy a nice meal. The guy literally posted a picture of himself on X with half a dozen other people, including like the chef. Ate dinner tonight in New Orleans. Proud to be a part of this incredibly resilient city. See everyone at the game tomorrow. And he's got a big old thumbs up. It's like, what a doofus. What an out-of-touch moment this is for this guy. He's at Bonton Prime Rib in New Orleans. Looks pretty good. But if you were genuinely concerned about the well-being and safety of that city, well, you wouldn't have the governor taking photos in the middle of the street with not a lot of security, apparently, giving a big old thumbs up and an S-eating grin saying, hey, I had a great steak tonight in town. This is not like after September 11th and the attacks of 9/11, sporting events were canceled for a few days. That was appropriate. Okay, that was a terrorist attack that first off killed thousands of people, and nobody knew exactly what may be next. And it was also just very inappropriate to be playing sports in the wake of what happened September 11, 2001. This is not to downplay what happened on Bourbon Street, but that was also a national security risk of which we had really never seen before. It was not clear if something else was going to happen, if something else could happen. We didn't have the infrastructure from the government or local authorities to guarantee that sporting events were safe. So games were understandably canceled in Major League Baseball and the NFL for several days. That is not today. That is not what happened in New Orleans. All this does is give the perpetrators a win and inconvenience tens of thousands of people who were set to be at that game, go to that game, now have to change around travel plans for what? I mean, I heard reports yesterday that they had dog-sniffing, bomb-sniffing dogs out at the Superdome. They were there all day. They were making sure the place was safe. They did all that. So what was the purpose of this? To delay the game by a day. What's the point? To act like you're doing something? It's not really about safety and security. Here was Laura Rutledge, ESPN, reporting on this last night.
Speaking to the teams, the Sugar Bowl has now been postponed. Laura, what are you hearing from the teams and the reaction to this game being moved?
Yeah, well, certainly a football game pales in comparison to the importance of the tragedy that we're talking about here. But it is an element of this conversation as we look to see what the next steps will be. And in speaking with Georgia team officials throughout the day, they have been waiting to gather more information. But while that's been going on, they have a shelter in place at their team hotel. They're on lockdown. Nobody is leaving. Nobody's coming in. They're making sure everyone is as safe as possible. And here in the stadium, they just opened it back up, the Superdome, recently. So we were able to get back into the stadium, but they had been sweeping it once again with dogs who can detect explosives. They had done that a couple days ago, and they felt the stadium was secure. They did it again just to make sure, but of course, taking every precaution possible.
That's Laura Rutledge, ESPN, yesterday reporting on ABC News. There will not be a safer place in America tonight than the Superdome. It's one of those things that, our gut reaction when something awful happens somewhere is to want to avoid it, when in many respects, that's probably the safest place you could be. In terms of like major events you could go to tonight around the country, there will not be a safer place than the Superdome, where Georgia is playing Notre Dame in that college football playoff quarterfinal game. Yet the game gets delayed. And why? Out of respect for those who lost their lives? Okay, well then why is the governor out at a steakhouse giving a big old thumbs up, smiling outside of it and posting it on social media? Instead, what you've done is you've inconvenienced tens of thousands of people who came to your city to spend money to watch a game with travel plans, hotel plans, the whole thing, all in the name of, well, we think this is what we should do. Not having anything to do with the actual security of the moment, but just saying, well, we've got to delay the game just because. And as a result, to me, that's just a sign of weakness. That's a sign of softness. So, I'm hopeful that the game will be a good one today. I know it's not really about that right now. There are bigger things going on in that town, but the game's got to go on, and it should have been played last night. 913-408-7957. 7:13. It's great to be back on a Thursday morning on KCMO. Mayor Lucas will be back in his 7:30 Thursday slot in about 20 minutes. And then Luke Doris, KCTV5 chief meteorologist, will be here to get us prepared for what could be a major winter storm coming to Kansas City this weekend. And our buddy Scott Fawn of the Missouri Times at 8:30 on 95.7 FM. 7:20, good morning. It is great to be back on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. I did take a 2-week hiatus from seeing any clips from The View to piggyback off of Bill O'Reilly's commentary there. So I have no idea if those hacks have been working, if they've been taken off.
Still on. Yeah.
I don't know if they're still on. I don't know if ABC News might have canceled the show on a Friday news dump last Friday. I have no idea. Although I probably would have seen that at some point. I was still staying relatively active with the news.
Trump's already sent for Whoopi and Sonny. So
that's right.
They're coming after him.
That's right.
So those two are gone.
They did predict that, right?
Yeah.
Trump's going to put him in jail.
Yeah.
That's what they insist. He's coming for him. Don't you worry. Oh, my gosh. Oh, boy. So speaking of Bill O'Reilly, you're going to hear Bill every night on this radio station at 8 o'clock, starting tonight with the No Spin News. So that show has been added to the lineup starting this evening, 8 p.m. You will hear from Bill O'Reilly and his No Spin News hour-long program on KCMO. And also starting today, a 3-hour edition of The Guy Benson Show at 2 o'clock. So Guy Benson following up Dan Bongino. Bongino on at 11 to 2. You've got then Guy Benson from 2 till 5 o'clock. So those lineup tweaks, not major changes, just tweaks based on some of the contractual issues that happened with prior shows. You've got Guy Benson now starting at 2, and you've got Bill O'Reilly on at 8 after Mark Levin.
I liken it to a major league manager. You're letting the starters go another inning.
Yeah, that's what it is.
We've kind of put the short relievers back in the bullpen.
Exactly. And Bill's been a good friend of the show, obviously, for a long time.
Bringing in a veteran there to bolster the bullpen.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the old cleanup hitter at the 8 p.m. slot. That's when he was on Fox News back in the heyday. So Bill will be on at 8 p.m. here on KCMO Talk Radio every night, and then the Guy Benson Show now begins at 2 o'clock every afternoon on 95.7 FM. And, of course, Kevin Keatsman with Kevin Keatsman Uncanceled coming up at 10 a.m. So I hope you had some time off during the holidays. I did, but I'll tell you what. I didn't expect this. I was getting absolutely roasted a couple of days ago by Swifties here in Kansas City. And I really didn't intend for this to happen. It just happened on New Year's Eve. I didn't think it was all that bad or all that offensive of a post, but there were a lot of pictures of Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. You know, they've been hanging out, obviously, in New York the last few days since the Chiefs won on Christmas Day. They had a week and a half off. You knew that Kelce wasn't going to play once they clinched that number 1 seed. So he's been living a good life, hanging out in New York. That's cool. So there was a picture of Kelce and Taylor, a lot of pictures on social media in the last few days. And Travis Kelce continues to just dress horribly. I don't know how else to put it. As great of a tight end as he is, his fashion sense is that bad.
I thought I was just a boomer.
No.
Boomer about it. Okay.
Listen, his fashion sense is awful. Now, I say that as a guy who shows up in jeans and a shirt every day, but, you know, that's kind of what, like, regular run-of-the-mill dudes wear. They wear jeans, you wear a halfway decent pair of shoes, hopefully, and you have on a sweater, you have on a shirt, you got on maybe a button. It's just something normal that guys wear. So I shared this picture of Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift, and she looks great. God bless her. She looks classy. He's dressed in, looks like a red denim jacket with red denim wind pants. I don't know if it's denim or suede. I don't know what the actual style is. But he looks like a clown. I mean, he's wearing sunglasses that look like they're out of the, I don't know, late 90s. He's trying to bring back those oval sunglass style that just look like crap. I don't know what he's going for here.
So the words blend and in don't come to mind here at all, right? No blending in.
No, there was no blending in here for Travis. So I just put up, I thought, a fairly innocuous post. I shared the photo and I said, Travis is an all-time tight end, but have any of his awful fashion statements become trendy yet? And the answer is no. Find me one Travis Kelce fashion statement that has become trendy with regular guys. You can't find it. It doesn't exist. And, you know, I was kind of just shooting the you-know-what on New Year's Eve. I didn't think much would come of it. Well, now it's gotten 45,000 views, and every Swiftie in Kansas City attacked me for this. One person, I mean, and there was some really just nasty, just really nasty. Mm-hmm. I mean, now I know what when Trump talks about the media being nasty, I mean, these people are very, very nasty. Carla writes to me, and the hilarious part is none of these people like have their faces on their social media ever. So Carla writes to me, I think his fashion statements are spot on, and he probably could recommend a good dentist. Referring to me. Now, listen, there's a lot of things you can say about me. A lot of things. A lot of things you can say about me, I promise. And I can take it all. I don't think the dentist commentary is one thing that really sticks. Like, if I was going to insult myself for my looks, it wouldn't be over my teeth. I mean, I'm the kind of loser who still wears a retainer once or twice a week because my teeth were bad as a kid. I had braces for years, and I'm still self-conscious about them. So, like, trust me, if I would insult myself, it wouldn't be over the straightness of my teeth or lack thereof because they're actually pretty straight. What else do we have here? Who are you anyway?
Said the innocuous anonymous person.
I'm trying to read this thing without laughing, and also I've got to leave some of the expletives out of it. And then they share a picture of a farmer in overalls. I bet this is more of your speed anyway. And I said, you're right. I'd take that guy's outfit over whatever the heck Travis Kelce is wearing any day of the week. I'll tell you that right now.
They've talked about this on their podcast, and, you know, Jason's like, I don't know what to wear on Monday Night Football. There's like, I got you on this, bro. It's like, okay, guys.
No, you don't. Here we've got one from Brittany. I don't think he's trying to set new trends. He wears what he likes. I think that's all there is to it. He's not trying to be some fashion-forward trend center. Kind of weird to take an attack that seems totally unnecessary. It's not an attack. The guy just has crappy fashion. It's not an attack. I love what Travis Kelce does for Kansas City. And if you think that Travis Kelce is not trying to be a fashion-forward trend center, then you are blind to reality. He clearly, it is indisputable. And some of the things, some of the insults, I was very surprised by them. I'll just leave it at that as we welcome you back, or I'll welcome myself back on January 2nd, 2025. It's going to be kicking off the new year. Welcome back to myself on KCMO Talk Radio.